Welcome back to the Clueless Catholic Podcast. Why are you laughing?
Cause
I said it right. You shouldn't be
not
laughing.
Clueless Catholic.
So what's going on today, Michael?
You don't know.
I know.
Because today is a special edition.
He's been driving me crazy all morning.
She wants to know, and I won't tell her.
Mm-hmm.
But now I will.
Okay.
So, we've been focused on the Mass and things that we do during Mass and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, with everything that's going on in the church right now, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to take a look at the differences between the traditional Latin Mass, or TLM, and the Novus Ordo Mass, or NO Mass. And I don't know if you see it on your Facebook. My Facebook has become a bunch of Christians arguing with each other. I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but it did. But have you heard of the Society of St. Paul X, or SSPX?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what's going on right now? God bless you.
Thank you. No, I do not.
So I won't go the history yet. We'll get into the history. But what's going on currently is the bishop that kind of heads SSPX is planning to consecrate 4 new bishops.
Okay.
Without papal authority.
Oh.
Because the Pope is the one who consecrates new bishops.
Mm-hmm.
Or gives authority to do so. And he's not giving his authority. And so the Pope has said, look, if you do this, you're going to be excommunicated.
The bishop. Yes.
And anybody directly involved in the consecration of these new bishops. So, you know, it's not a huge schism, but they would become schismatic. Not quite. There's some subtleties to this. But now I relied a lot on ChatGPT, just to be fair and transparent. But I cross-referenced a lot of this. Ironically, the heart of the matter with SSPX is not the Latin Mass versus the Novus Ordo Mass.
Is that what they're arguing about?
It comes into play.
Okay.
There are some doctrinal issues that we'll talk about in a little bit. But from a layperson's standpoint, they feel that it is a Latin Mass versus Novus Ordo. So, a little bit of history. 1963? 62. Well, let's go back a little bit further. So, when you hear about the Latin Mass, you know, a lot of times you will hear things like, that's the way it's always been. Tradition. Which the church respects.
Yeah.
I found out that's not quite the case.
What do you mean?
Before 1570 AD, Mass was not identical everywhere.
Oh?
There were many local rites. There was the Roman rite. There was an Ambrosian rite. There was, I don't even know how to pronounce this properly, but Arabic rite.
Oh.
A Dominican rite. A Carmelite rite. Those
are
from
nuns.
Orders. Those are orders.
Yeah.
Well, nuns and monks as well.
Yeah.
So they had their own rite with different prayers. The core Mass was the same, but prayers varied between the two, or between all of these. You know, and there were all sorts of other rites within the Roman rite.
Yeah.
So in 1570, after the Council of Trent, Pope Pius V standardized the Roman rite. This is what people now call the traditional Latin Mass, or Tridentine Mass. I think I pronounced that correctly. It wasn't invented in 1570, but it was codified, just saying if you're part of the Roman rite, this is how we worship.
Okay.
Okay. So it stayed that way till 1962. Pope John the 23rd, who was not Pope very long at all, published the final edition of the Tridentine Missal. This is the version that most TLM communities celebrate today. From 1962 to 1965 was the Second Vatican Council that Pope John the 23rd convened and then died. What they called for, and there's a lot of debate around this, but what it called for was greater participation in the Mass, some use of local language, simplification of certain rites, and restoration of ancient practices where appropriate. So coming from the Novus Ordo, from Second Vatican Council, Pope Paul VI promulgated the Novus Ordo Missae, or the New Order of Mass.
Okay.
This is the Mass that you and I attend. Different prayers, different cycles. We'll go through all that here in just a moment. But what is the same between both the TLM and the Novus Ordo? It's the same Eucharist, the same sacrifice, the same real presence. It's the same priesthood, the same essential words of consecration, and the same 7 sacraments. The Church does not teach that one Mass is better than another. This is an argument that I have had with my son, who is a fan of the TLM Mass. I personally am not. That's only because I have no clue what is going on. Yes, I took 2 semesters of Latin in high school, and all I remember was the phrase "fidem shit," which means she keeps the faith.
Fidem shit means she keeps the faith?
Yeah, it's SCIT, but in Latin that's pronounced shit. So the story that goes with that is my English teacher went into seminary before he became a teacher.
Your English teacher did?
Yeah, he wanted to be a priest, and he discerned out. But over the cafeteria, there was a big sign that said, "Fidem shit."
Where did you go to school?
East Noble.
So a public school.
Yeah, it was a public school.
Had Fidem shit.
No, not my cafeteria.
Oh, who's
his cafeteria?
Oh, I thought you were saying
seminary.
Yours. Oh, okay.
Seminary.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
Well, Mr. Avery is my favorite teacher of all time, but he's also a little bit of a jokester. So every day he would walk into the cafeteria, point to the sign, and look at the nuns and say, "You got that right, sister." That's the only reason I remember any part of Latin.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't speak Latin.
No, but they had the book right there.
I don't speak Spanish. Well, some, but not enough to do that. If I'm going to go to Mass, I want to participate in that Mass, not read it. Just like you don't like reading the homily.
I know.
During the homily, I don't like reading from a missal because I have no clue what's going on.
Even if
I
it's
like
in
to
English.
experience it. It took me many years to get it, but I got it.
Not that even if they're speaking Latin and you're reading it in English.
Then why not just speak it in English? Now, I have attended a TLM Mass, and I was completely lost. It is a very beautiful Mass. I will give it that much. But it's not something that it didn't speak to me on any greater level than any other Mass that I've ever been to. That's just how I personally feel. Now, Josh absolutely adores that Mass.
He does.
You know, and that's okay for him. The problem I have with Josh is he tries to convince me that it's better. And that's where I argue with him. It's that in my mind, they're equal. They're not equal for me, but they are equal Masses. So the major differences. TLM is almost entirely in Latin. Now the homily is usually underlined in the local language. Can you imagine if the homily were in Latin? I'd be totally lost. Novus Ordo usually is celebrated in the Latin language or the local language. Latin is still permitted and, in fact, envisioned by the council, but is much less common. That is where Second Vatican Council created a pendulum swing from one end all the way to the other. And it's been decades of people trying to correct that, so to speak. In the TLM, the direction of the priest is called ad orientem. And that's Latin for I turn around. No, I don't know what it means, but the priest and the congregation face the same direction towards God.
Yeah.
The priest is, instead of showing the host, he is offering the host with the congregation. Whereas with Novus Ordo, the posture is versus populum, which means the priest faces the people.
Popular verse.
He is presenting the sacrifice to the people in persona Christi. This I did not know. What?
I'm just smelling.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
We're smoking.
We're smoking meat.
Yes.
Not smoking.
No. And I was like, is that okay?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. We cleaned it out here.
It caught on fire one time. That's why I'm like, okay, anyway.
The Novus, not Norvis, I'm pronouncing it wrong. Novus Ordo can be celebrated ad orientem.
Oh my gosh.
Novus.
Novus.
I was pronouncing it wrong, sorry.
Novus
Ordo
can be celebrated
ad orientem, which means the priest facing the same direction as the congregation.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Again, that pendulum swing. So much changed after.
But isn't that how they started Mass? A long time ago?
Yeah, that's how the traditional Latin Mass is celebrated, is ad orientem.
Yeah.
But there's no rubric or canon law that says you cannot celebrate Novus Ordo ad orientem.
Interesting. So, do priests have their?
I don't
option?
know if it's a priestly
Or a
decision or a
diocese?
bishop decision.
Oh.
I suspect it would be a bishop decision, but I don't know.
Okay.
We'll have to look into that. The Novus Ordo contains 4 primary Eucharistic prayers and several additional approved options. The TLM uses only one, the Roman canon. Ironically, the Roman canon still exists in the Novus Ordo Mass as Eucharistic prayer number 1.
The what?
The Eucharistic prayer, the prayer that the priest prays.
For the
No, I think it's the one after the consecration where he says, like, well, because it changes for us, but he says, I'll have to look at that.
I'm not sure where I'm at in what you're saying. That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
Is it it's not where they're elevating?
Hold on. We're going to find out.
In the meantime, while he's looking, I enjoyed Latin Mass. And I think the reason why is because even though I didn't understand anything either, but you have to focus. You can't wander.
Ironically, wandering is all I did during that Mass.
And that's maybe that's the struggle for you. Because you tend to wander when it's not Latin Mass.
The Eucharistic prayer begins after the preparation of the gifts.
Yeah.
After the priest says, pray, brothers and sisters, that my sacrifice and yours may be acceptable, etc., etc. So it fits preparation of the gift, the Eucharistic prayer right before the communion rite. So it's probably all part of the Eucharistic prayer itself includes these major parts. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
With your spirit.
Oh, yeah, with your spirit. Oh, my gosh.
Lift up your hearts.
Lift them up to the Lord.
Let us give thanks to the Lord our God.
It is right and just.
Then the Sanctus. So the Eucharistic prayer is long. So then we sing the Sanctus. Sanctus.
Sanctus.
Whatever. Holy, holy, holy. We sing in English.
Yes.
And
in
then
Latin sometimes.
The epic. No.
Yes, we do.
I don't.
Well, I do.
The epiclesis.
Oh,
the
yeah.
priest invokes the Holy Spirit to sanctify the bread and the wine. Institution, narrative, and the consecration. This is where Jesus says, this is my body and this is the chalice of my blood.
Mm-hmm.
The memorial acclamation, we proclaim your death, O Lord, or another approved acclamation. Anamnesis and offering. The church offers Christ's sacrifice to the Father. Intercessions, which is the prayer, and the final doxology. Through him, with him, and in him. And then the great Amen. So that's all the Eucharistic stuff, or Eucharistic prayer. So it's the stuff in the middle that can change in the Novus Ordo Mass. All right, now I'm going back to where we were. Nope, it's going to go all the way to the end, and I have to find where I was. The prayers. Okay, readings. The TLM Mass is on a 1-year cycle. You hear many of the same readings every year.
Okay.
Whereas the Novus Ordo, do you remember what cycle we're on? We have a 3-year cycle.
I know. We have A, B's, and C's.
Yeah, I don't know which one we're on this year, but we have a 3-year cycle.
Yeah.
And a 2-year weekday cycle. A much larger portion of Scripture is proclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
Participation, the TLM, much is prayed quietly. This is where ABD people wander.
That's why you struggle.
Yes. The congregation participates through prayer, singing, and following in a missal. Again, if it's in English, I don't have to follow. Novus Ordo, many prayers are spoken aloud so that I'm actually participating.
It snaps you out of your
Yes.
wandering mind.
Yes. There are more spoken responses from the congregation. Mm-hmm. Music in the TLM, and this is the part that I will give props to the TLM, is Gregorian chant and polyphony chorus. Do you know what that is?
Many something.
I had to look it up too.
Many voices?
Yeah, basically. It's
choir?
It's when you sing that, when the choir sings 4 different melodies all together.
Oh, that's cool.
See, I thought you'd appreciate that. Yeah. And then sacred
what is it called?
Polyphony.
Polyphony?
Polyphony.
Okay.
Many sounds.
Many sounds.
Novus Ordo can include chant, organs, choirs, contemporary hymns, and the part that throws up everybody's arms, modern worship music. Quality varies enormously from parish to parish.
That's true.
Communion in the TLM Mass is typically received kneeling, on the tongue, and usually received at an altar rail.
Yep.
Novus Ordo usually is standing, on the tongue, or in the hand where permitted. Both methods are approved by the church under current discipline. So that you go back to, and the TLM adherents will say that we're being disrespectful by not kneeling. But if the irony is, we talked about this a few weeks ago, our Orthodox brothers would understand us standing in respect more so than the kneeling out of humility.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Altar servers for the TLM are only males. Mm-hmm. Novus Ordo may be male or female if permitted by the bishop and the pastor. I'll be honest, I like the tradition side better. Not that I don't want women up on the altar. That has nothing to do with it. But I've often seen altar servers as kids that they're serving in their parish, but many of them are starting to discern priesthood. Mm-hmm. And that is a really good place for them to start. Women can't be priests because Christ did not choose male and female for his apostles. He chose only males for a reason. But I think that's a really good launching spot.
I do too.
So I tend to agree with that. The downside is if you get into discussions with TLM adherents, they will go so far as to say no women on the altar, period.
Not even a read or?
Yes.
Oh.
Now that's only some, not all.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's that pendulum swing. They overcorrect for things that they don't like, and now they're over here where even women can't go up to go read. And I disagree with that. Now we're going to get into some myths, things that people often get wrong. The Latin Mass is the only valid Mass, and that is not true.
That's not true.
The Church recognizes Novus Ordo as valid and the Latin Mass as valid. Myth number 2, the Novus Ordo Mass is Protestant or too Protestant. It remains fully Catholic. It still contains the Eucharist. The sacrifice of the Mass remains, and the priest does act in persona Christi. Myth number 3, the Vatican II Council abolished the Latin Mass. False.
I don't remember hearing that.
I have.
You have?
Oh, yeah. If you get into these discussions, you'll hear it.
Oh.
Quite the opposite. Sacrosanctum Concilium states the use of the Latin language is to be preserved in the Latin rites. The council also permitted broader use of the vernacular. Myth number 4. Everyone before Vatican II experienced exactly the same Mass. Mostly true for the Roman Rite after Trent. But Eastern Catholic churches and certain Western rites continued to celebrate their own liturgies. So it's not 100% correct. So why are people so passionate? It just comes down to, in my opinion, what they're comfortable with. Those drawn to the Latin Mass frequently appreciate silence, continuity with centuries of tradition, Latin, chant, and a strong sense of mystery. Those drawn to the Novus Ordo often appreciate hearing scripture and prayers in their own language, a broader exposure to the Bible, greater audible participation, and accessibility to newcomers. And I think that last one is very big, because I can honestly say, had the Mass not changed and had stayed strictly Latin, I can't say I would not have joined the church, but I can say it probably would have taken much, much longer. Partially because I'm stubborn as all get out, but partially because I don't speak Latin, and it would have made no sense to me.
We would have had to put you in Latin class. I don't know much Latin.
I don't know much. I know E pluribus unum.
What is that?
Out of many, one. It's the motto of the United States.
Oh.
All right. So here's some history for all of this. When the Novus Ordo was introduced in 1969 and 1970, the expectation was that it would largely replace the older form of the Roman Rite. Many priests and parishes transitioned quickly, and in many places, older Mass virtually disappeared. That's that pendulum swing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what Vatican II said, and the priests and the bishops went a little bit too far, in my opinion. For many Catholics, this was painful. They had grown up with the traditional Latin Mass, and they felt they had lost a treasured part of the church's liturgical heritage. Some accepted the changes, and others did not. This is a fun story. It's not in my notes, but J.R.R. Tolkien. You know who that is?
Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Yay!
He wrote Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, Return of the King, which was intended to be a Catholic allegory. He has said that over and over again. He grew up in the Latin Mass. He loved the Latin Mass. So much so, according to his grandson, Christopher Tolkien, that in the Mass, when responses everybody was giving in English after 1969, he would very loudly proclaim the responses only in Latin.
Oh, really?
He was stubborn. He was not obeying his bishop, though. Um, a particularly significant group was founded, I'm going to butcher his last name, but Marcel Lefebvre, who established the Society of St. Pius X. Lefebvre, I don't know how to pronounce that, objected not only to the liturgical reforms, but also to aspects of the Second Vatican Council. The conflict escalated in 1988. Okay?
Okay.
So I was 11. I had no knowledge of this whatsoever because I wasn't Catholic anyway. But Lefebvre consecrated 4 bishops without papal approval, leading to a formal rupture with Rome and excommunications for those directly involved. Sound familiar?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar.
We just came full circle now.
Pope Benedict XVI believed that many Catholics attached to the traditional Latin Mass were faithful sons and daughters of the Church, not schismatics. So, in 2007, he issued Summorum Pontificum.
Okay.
That's Latin. No clue what it means. Something about the pontificate. One of its most significant ideas was that the 1962 Missal had never been judiciously abolished. The Novus Ordo, as the ordinary form of the Roman Rite, wow, that's a lot of R's, and then he described the traditional Latin Mass as the extraordinary form of the Roman Rite.
Mm-hmm.
This was an important distinction. Benedict did not say there were 2 different rites. He said there were 2 forms of one Roman rite. He was bringing them back together. But, so what happened next? Many new Latin Mass communities started to grow. Young families became interested. Seminarians began learning Latin, although I think they were learning it before, but they began to learn how to speak it. Yeah. Religious orders dedicated to the older liturgy expanded. At the same time, some bishops reported growing tensions in certain places. While many communities remained fully united with the Church, others became highly critical of Novus Ordo and the Second Vatican Council, or even recent popes. So Pope Francis came onto the scene, and he reached a different conclusion. After consulting with bishops around the world, he concluded in some places that broader permission granted by Summorum Pontificum had unintentionally contributed to division within the Church. So, in 2021, he came out with Traditionis Custodis.
The custody of the tradition.
Sure. Probably tastes like farina.
Probably.
Bishops, not individual priests, again became responsible for authorizing celebrations of the traditional Latin Mass. We've seen this pop up in Kentucky where a couple bishops have said no more, period.
No more
Latin Masses. They've banned
I remember hearing something about that.
And that may be because of that division that was being created. We don't know because the bishops don't consult us.
Yeah.
New groups devoted exclusively to the older liturgy faced greater restrictions. And the document emphasized that liturgical books promulgated after Vatican II are now a unique expression of the Roman Rite. All right. So, I won't go into the who was right because that's not part of it. All right. I think, okay. I wanted to get a little bit into the doctrinal differences between SSPX and Vatican II.
Okay.
So, like we talked about, Latin Mass versus Novus Ordo. That becomes the crux of the matter when you're discussing things online. But what really is the crux of the matter is there are some 5 points that we've got here. The first point is religious liberty. the biggest issue. SSPX objects to Dignitatis Humanae.
Human dignity.
Yes, which came out of the Vatican II. The council taught that people have a civil right not to be coerced by the state in matters of religion. I would tend to agree with that. That means if you live in Malta, they can't make you be Catholic.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
SSPX objects to that. SSPX argues that the teaching is difficult to reconcile with earlier papal statements that supported the idea of Catholic confessional states and criticized certain forms of religious liberty. In other words, if you live in Malta, you should be Catholic.
Well, you should. I mean, it's Malta.
We bring up Malta because it's 95% Catholic and is a Catholic state. Ecumenism. SSPX objects to parts of Unitatis
Reform? Unity? What?
Redintegratio. Probably butchered that. The Catholic Church teaches that the Catholic Church possesses the fullness of means of salvation. That other Christian communities possess elements of truth and sanctification. Christians should seek unity through dialogue and prayer. SSPX worries that, in practice, ecumenism has sometimes given the impression that all Christian denominations are equally true, or that doctrinal differences don't matter. The Church rejects that interpretation while continuing to encourage authentic ecumenical dialogue. Do you get that? So, what the Catholic Church is saying is, yes, Methodists have some truth. Not all of it. We believe that the Catholic is the fullness of truth. Methodists have pieces of truth here, 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 and here. Let's focus on those similarities to help bring us all back together. Because the Catholic Church is ultimately to bring everybody back into community.
Universal, yes.
SSPX is worried that if we don't focus on the differences and tell them where they're wrong, that we're telling the Methodists, hey, you're okay the way you are.
Oh.
You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm a peacemaker, so I'm just like, come on, people.
Relations, point number 3, relations with other religions. SSPX has expressed certain concerns about Nostra Aetate. The document encourages respect and dialogue with Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and others while affirming that salvation comes through Christ. SSPX fears that some post-consular practices have blurred the uniqueness of Christ and the Catholic Church. Rome insists that dialogue does not mean treating all religions as equally true. Very, very similar to ecumenism, but dealing with faiths that are outside Christianity. Point number 4, collegiality. Oh, finally, one I know how to pronounce. SSPX questions aspects of Lumen Gentium regarding the relationship between the Pope and bishops. The council emphasized that bishops, united with the Pope, share responsibility for the universal church. I would tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
SSPX worries that the emphasis could weaken papal primacy. The Church teaches that Vatican II did not diminish the Pope's authority, but clarified the role of the College of Bishops. And then point 5, liturgical reform. Although this isn't usually classified as a doctrinal dispute in the strict sense, it is one of SSPX's major concerns. The Society argues that reforms following Vatican II reduced emphasis on the sacrificial nature of the Mass, removed or altered many traditional prayers, and encouraged practices they believe weakened belief in the Eucharist. Well, maybe. Who knows? You know? The Holy See response to the Missale Romanum is fully Catholic, valid, and faithfully expresses the Church's doctrine when celebrated according to its rubrics. However, the SSPX does accept the Pope as a legitimate Pope. So they're not sedevacantists. They don't believe the chair's been empty. They accept all 21 ecumenical councils in principle, including Vatican II, though they dispute the interpretation of parts of its teaching. Accepts the Catechism where they believe it is consistent with prior teaching. Accepts the validity of Novus Ordo when it's celebrated correctly, though they often criticize it as pastorally and theologically deficient. This is the one reason the Church has not simply labeled SSPX as being informal schism. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, like the sedevacantists who believe that the chair of Peter has been empty since Pope Pius X, they do not believe that Pope Leo is the actual Pope.
Oh.
Whereas SSPX does believe in the validity of Pope Leo. They just disagree on certain things. So sedevacantists are in schism. They are excommunicated. They are not part of the church. SSPX is part of the church that they feel they're trying to reform and go back to where they were, whereas the church is like, you need to go in line with what the Pope says.
I see.
There's other groups out there. There's like the Palmarian Catholics or something like that. They have their own Pope.
Oh.
Yeah, all right.
I'm glad I live in my own little bubble.
So sometimes that bubble of ignorance is good, sometimes not.
Ignorance is bliss.
No, it's not always the way it should go. Let me scroll back here, and then I'll wrap us all up.
With the shiny bow?
Maybe. I don't know if it's shiny or not. The Mass isn't about choosing a team. Whether you're attending the traditional Latin Mass or the Novus Ordo Mass, our focus. There's too many R's in this word language. Our focus should be the same, worshiping God and receiving Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. We can appreciate the beauty of different liturgical expressions while remaining united in the same Catholic faith. The Church is at her strongest when Catholics love the liturgy without letting liturgical preferences divide the body of Christ. L's and R's, that's all this is. L's and R's. Lots of L's, lots of R's. So if you have questions, feel free to post them. I'll look for answers. This was a pretty heavy topic.
Yeah, I'm not
but
sure.
I felt it was timely to what's going on with current events.
So, okay.
Sophie.
The when you started the conversation where we ended, did you kind of take it full circle? Sorry, because I was.
That was my point.
I
was trying.
Okay.
They can't see you. All they see is Sophie's nose.
That's okay. That's okay. So what do we need to take out of this? What is your message?
Well, I don't know that I had a message. Just I wanted to address it because it's relevant to the church right now, because SSPX is possibly putting themselves into a schismat or into a excommunicated status. And people like my son may find themselves, because the pendulum keeps just swinging, they may find themselves without connection to a TLM mass, which would frustrate him.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. I wasn't sure where that was going. Okay. That would frustrate him.
But we have to, it's really about where we meet God within the rubrics of the Catholic faith. It's not, the Latin Mass is not for me. I don't go to Spanish Mass because I don't speak Spanish. If I were in another country, then yeah, fine. I'll grab the missal and follow along, but it'll probably be in Spanish too. But I think there's beauty in both. I think there's, what it comes down to is we go to Mass for Eucharist. That is the worship. That is the source and summit of our faith. It is the foundation and everything that we strive towards. Whereas and I can get both of those, or get that in both Latin Mass and Novus Ordo.
Yeah.
One is not better than the other. And so when having these discussions, understand, what the other person sees in their Mass.
Yeah.
If you are a TLM adherent and a fan of the traditional Latin Mass, that's great. But don't denigrate and put down the Novus Ordo because you don't find yourself there. You don't find God there as much, and the same for those of us that, and the vast majority of us that go to Novus Ordo Mass. The traditional Latin Mass isn't something that's trying to take over or push out or, get rid of the Pope. It's just, it's a different language and a different tradition of celebrating the Mass.
What is the Mass? The Mass is the Mass.
Yeah.
The heart of the Mass.
I mean, if we really want to get strict, we should just all go back to Greek.
There you go.
Because that's how it was originally done.
There you go. And then nobody would understand except for people in Greece.
Or my business banker, because she speaks Greek.
Oh, that's true.
And she'll tell you she's Greek multiple times
a day.
I've determined that Greeks are like vegans. If you don't know somebody's Greek, just wait a few minutes. They will tell you.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you, Michael, for sharing all that.
You're welcome.
I can't wait to put this long video into short videos, post them online, and see what kind of things that you stir up.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yes.
I'm sure. Next week, we're going to get back to our series, and we'll be doing why we say, Lord, I am not worthy, and why do we make the sign of the cross on our forehead, lips, and hearts right before the gospel.
Wonderful. All right. Until next time. Bye, everybody.